I'm Patricia McDonald, the director of the Ulrich Museum of Art, and very, very happy to be able to welcome all of you here for what is going to be a spectacular presentation this evening. And we are in a season of very lively activity at the Ulrich. On Saturday night, we opened our own collection exhibition and had a book party that was one of those parties to end all parties. I'm looking at Sam Corey because he was the one that with the quote of the night. I was just sort of skirting by him, and I overheard him telling a friend that, hey, this is uptown. It's like we're in New York. So, Tom, you missed it. I'm sorry, you were in New York. We actually had it here. And we have Tom Otterness, one of our absolute favorites, back with us tonight. He may live in New York, but he's really Wichita and Ulrich family for us. Many who are here tonight in the room remember it was a short 18 months ago only when we were all together for the brilliant day in October when we dedicated Tom's millipede that's here in front of the museum. So please, everyone, help me tonight to let Tom know how much this campus and this community have embraced that lovable bug that's out in front. It's really heartening. It's so heartening as the museum director to be coming into work or to be coming and going for a lunch and watching, people circling it and discovering the little surprise that's at the back. Or sometimes I come and there are, WC students or children who are climbing all over it. And it's just really a great addition to the important sculpture that we have on the campus. And Tom, I would like you to help me thank all these people for the support that they give for projects like yours to add that to the campus. But this is the group of our nearest and dearest patrons at the Ulrich Museum. And because they generously support the museum, so much is able to happen. The support enables us to make extraordinary experiences with original works of art happen for Wichita audiences. It's just as simple as that. So we developed the sterling lineup of speakers for salon gatherings like tonight, and nationally prominent people come to town. The salon support funds the cost of school buses when children come on field trips to the museum. It helps us develop Boy Scout and Girl Scout art programs. It helps us create we did some super learning experiences with the Gordon Parks Academy in conjunction with the recent Gordon Parks retrospective. All that on top of the stellar presentations of art in our gallery. So thank you all so very much for not only being here for tonight, but generously giving to our programs. And in this particular year, we had patrons be even that much more generous to help us with our Art of Our Time project, our collection exhibition, and really created a collection catalog that I am so proud of. And with that, I want to acknowledge a couple of the creative partners who are here in the room on that project. We commissioned photographer Larry Schwarm to create what we called a photo essay. We live on this campus with astounding works of art, with astounding sculptures, and they're part of our path back and forth to classes and to offices and to sporting events, and we wanted to be able to represent that in, our collection catalog, and Larry just exceeded our expectations in bringing that work to life in the pages of that book. And I want to acknowledge architect Dean Bradley, who's out there somewhere in the crowd. We commissioned Dean to help us with the setting for the works of art. So we have this stunning collection, some of them really iconic pieces of world art, but how do you put the jewel in the perfect crown? How do you set it off just right? Well, we wanted the talents of Dean and an architect to help us with that. So if you enjoy the presentation in there, certainly Kevin Mullins on our staff helped execute it, but they're Dean's design ideas. And I need just for half a second to thank all the Ulrich staff who went the extra mile and worked so hard on this project that took 2.5 years to come to fruition, but in particular Emily Stamey, our curator, who's also here with us tonight because she really gave lifeblood to the project. So we really saved the best for last, Tom. This is our final salon gathering for this academic year, and we held off so that the presenter would be you. Tom, everybody I'm sure is aware that Tom is a native of Wichita, attended schools here. Following high school, he went straight for New York, where he received art training and inserted himself rather quickly into the art scene. He's one of our country's leading sculptors, and that's not any kind of understatement. And he's a very, very public artist. His work certainly appears in art museums across the United States and around the globe, and he's certainly presented in many of the premier art museums in the United States, the Museum of Modern Art and the Whitney Museum of American Art, both in New York, just as examples. Yet the places where most people encounter Tom's art is really anywhere but in a gallery. It's out in the public. He installs sculpture in parks and in hospitals and in federal buildings and in courthouses. And I know that a couple of you in the room have even visited the public art piece that he did in the subway in New York City. My goodness, Tom is also the first artist who was ever commissioned to do a balloon for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. In 2005, Tom's upside-down Humpty Dumpty marched the streets of Manhattan, so very, very public. And I'm just going to leave you with two. When I do these introductions, I try to think of the ways very, succinctly and quickly to let you know the stature and significance of a certain person who's coming up and presenting. And I thought an easy way to do that with Tom is the two quotes that I want to share with you. So the New York Times art critic Ken Johnson wrote this: Tom Otterness may be the world's best public sculptor. Adam Weinberg, who's the director of the Whitney Museum of American Art, said this about Tom: the work that Tom has done today is probably some of the most community-friendly, family-friendly work being produced by a major artist in America. Not faint praise from either one of them. Tom shared with me, actually a little after, I think, the project of doing the millipede, that he had been commissioned for really an extraordinary project in Philadelphia. And I was so impressed that he got this gig and what he was doing with it, and really that it is a world-class project in the center of a major metropolis in the world. And I wanted him to come back and tell us about that project. I think at the end, we're all going to link arms and we should send out a registration sheet. When it's completed, I think many of us in the room need to go and cheer you on with that project. So in large part, that's the presentation that he's giving about this project. I wanted all of you to know what this Wichita native son is doing out there in the world. Please help me to welcome Tom to Wichita and to the stage.
Thanks. I didn't get a chance to help Patricia clap all of you support. It is really great that you support the community and arts here in the city. It's really critical. And probably a lot of the people in this room are the ones that are responsible for that. And it may seem indirect, but that's how the plants grow out there. That's how artists are made, and that's how you'd be surprised the effect it has. And really very nice. So it's nice to be home again. It's like an invitation I get to literally come home and see family and see everybody here and visit Millie and all that. I've got friends. I'm trying to see everybody at the same time. I've got friends. Mark is a night owl, and I see him till 1 in the morning. And then Todd is here, Middleton. I see him at 5:30 in the morning to go walking. And then we went for breakfast. Is it Jeannie's? I think. And one of the, it's like you're in the Midwest. It's one of the guys going outside has got. Oh, am I shying away? Is that good? Okay. One of the guys inside, you're seeing the trees outside kind of going this way, like 45 degrees, and he's going, nice wind today, and I thought, oh yeah, I'm home. This is Kansas, So yeah, I'm going to talk about another project. The one you saw on a loop is in San Jose, California. Really, something I like the site a lot. It's a park. It's called the Happy Hollow Park and Zoo. It was really built by hand by people that worked in the zoo. You can tell they would build the Crooked House or these different rides in the 60s. And I met a couple of the guys that did it. So half of it is a kind of Mother Goose story park, and the other is a petting zoo with all these strange animals in it. And they've got zebu and capybara and all these other things. So this is for the entrance for the park, and it kind of got both elements. It's got the kind of mythical part, and it was sort of a new thing for me in that I really got my anatomy books out. I knew I was dealing with zoologists, and I wanted to do them. I wanted to do a good zebu or a good capybara. So this is some of the Mother Goose part. The guys that built it, I met one of them. They did things like build cars out of truck bumpers and welding them together. It was really a handmade kind of park and had that feel to it, and everybody's very attached to it. When the opening day came, the park had been closed for renovations, and when the opening came, they had 8,000 people showed up for the opening day. It was really an amazing day. So, the old woman in the shoe. These are some of the bumper cars. Yeah. So they built them, and then I built my version. I think we'll see, or you saw them in the film, or we'll see some photos coming up. The guy said he had, they started building, what was it? Pigs. He said, oh yeah, we made pigs too. And they made them out of like scrap iron or something. But they had sort of X-rated pigs that were in the back that they kept in the shed or something. It's like the guys were making pigs in the back. This one, I just thought I'd show process. This is my version of the 3 pigs and the wolf coming behind them. And you can see from this sort of, I got photos all around to kind of get, in this case, wolf photos, and you see the armatures being built and kind of the rough end. I start really sketching with, with the wire itself, kind of the gesture of the figure, and then I build by hand, just taking the clay and squeezing it. And I think that's what makes a lot of the forms seem so touchable when they get outside, is that I've built everything from the start. It's formed by my hands, so the forms in the end, when they're finished, kind of make you want to touch them and have that quality. In this case, I think we'll see it here in a minute. You can just see it kind of progress here and get fleshed out. So in this, my version of it, you can't quite see it here. I think I've got a slide where you'll see the two pigs. So the pig that builds the brick house is full of money, of course. It's got coins and dollar bills all flowing out of the house, you know. And the two pigs, the one built the wood house and one built the straw house. Well, of course, he's got a hammer and she's got a sickle. So it's sort of this little, you know, it's a kid's park, but, you know, I do what I can do when I get the chance. But I thought it was sort of unlocking the key to that old story. I thought, oh, there it is. It was there all along, you know. And I thought, oh, the wolf is coming. And the wolf has a mortgage in his pocket. And he's going to eat everybody. It doesn't matter. Communist, capitalist, whatever it is. They're all goners, you know. So this is the hammer and sickle pigs. Aren't they cute? Aw. Oh boy. So, and that's the finished piece. And then that goes out the park and, you know, and as is, I think it's good to talk about the business here. There are other artists I know in the room. One of the ways that I managed to make this public work possible is that I almost always use the public commission money to do as much as I possibly can for the public site, and then I keep the right to edition the pieces, the individual pieces, and sell them in the gallery. So these will function both ways, and the gallery sales sort of subsidize the public work so that I can sometimes spend far more than I've gotten on a job. Here's some pigs again. This is the front side. You've got to wait for the next one. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now, these are all really accurate nature photos, you know, like this is all from the internet, you know. This is my most carefully rendered job, you know. And then they end up attached, yeah. But I sort of like the pigs as a separate sculpture. I haven't convinced the gallery to do that yet, but I like them as a group, like you keep them on your desk or something. I don't know. Oh, and this one photo doesn't have the key piece to it. There's one extra pig that's standing out there very forlorn and he can't get in, you know? So that's the tragedy of the final piece. This is a zebu. And I did drawings of this particular zebu. A lot of these are almost portraits of the animals that they had there. And in this case, he's eating dollar bills and kind of processing the coins out the back end, you know? So, and I found you never know when you got an installation like this. Like Millie, we knew exactly where it would go, but you never know. Here, it's like a game, you know. When you get out on site after 2 years of working on it, you know, it doesn't all fit the way you think it would, and it's really kind of the fun part as to what goes where. And this, we don't have a photo here, but this one's in front of the donors board, you know, a board listing all the donors for the park. You know? And I've done a coloring book. Somebody was asking tonight about the coloring book, so I did a coloring book that has a bunch of blank pages on, or, you know, empty pages on the inside you can color, and then a couple of blank pages. And I'm starting to get those back in. We printed 10,000, and they went, you know, bang, like that. And they offer a free sculpture at the back end. So I've been, you know, I look at the books and I scan them, and I put them on the website, and then some of them, and then I send them back their coloring books and give a little, in this case, I'm giving one of those coins from the back end of the zebu, you know, as their free plaster sculpture. So, But you get great things out of that. I get a lot of kind of input and stories and just seeing how kids draw. This is the big project in Philadelphia, the Peaceable Kingdom. And we'll just, it is from, I think many of you probably know, the Edward Hicks painting from the 1860s, I think, maybe 40s earlier. He did about 60 versions of it. He was a Quaker, grew up in Philadelphia. They gave me, when I was approached for the job, they said, well, you've got to make it for the city and relate to the different institutions around, which is this one site surrounded by a lot of museums and it's got a lot of history around it. So it's pretty complicated. But when I ran into that painting, I thought, oh, now we're on. I know what I'm doing. And we can go. I think here's I think a lot of you will recognize that. It's such a famous painting. And in the foreground, he's got of course, the Peaceable Kingdom from the Bible, where the lions lay down with the lambs. And in the background, it is William Penn and the Lenape Indians signing a peace treaty for Pennsylvania. So that's sort of a hidden part or a quiet part of the painting that I made bigger. This is the site. Now, a lot of you have gone, right? Did a big trip to Philadelphia, I heard, or I'm sure you know Philadelphia. Some of you here that this is the museum strip. And where that red circle is the park we're talking about. The big debate right now is that they're going to move the Barnes Foundation there. So it's just maybe I'll find a different view, but it's right across from the park. And it's a fight of whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think it's a done deal at this point. And this is Alexander Calder's grandfather. I have to look to see what his name is. Alexander Sterling Calder. So he did this fountain, I'm not sure when, but that exists right across the street from this site as well. And so I try to pull some different elements from around. There's the Natural History Museum that's behind it, or the Science Museum. The Moore College of Art is on one side, and that whole green area is the park that I'll be working in. And this is the first map. This is basically the proposal that I gave them to the city and stuff. So it's you can see it's quite a complex kind of job, and it's somehow covering the whole park. And it has a couple of existing sculptures. Let's see if we see it. One here in the foreground is the memorial to black soldiers from World War I. And so that's there in the park. And there's also a Paul Manship sculpture, quite a nice thing, that's an aerial memorial to World War I flyers. So it's, in part, this project kind of envelops those or supports them in some way. And this is leading in, again, another part of the painting. The child leads the lion. And you sort of enter through this would be one entrance, so it sort of guides you into the park. And this is the main kind of, the two mounds. I sort of broke the painting into those two vignettes and made mounds for them, and they're across, maybe 20 feet across from each other. The lion would be maybe 5 foot, not quite, a little more than 5 feet. So they're big. And these are some of the models. You can see in the background the I sort of reversed the scale. That's William Penn is the little guy there, and the Lenape Indian is, if he stood up, he's probably about 14 feet high. So there were some complaints about that at the board meeting, but and this is the contract. And I guess the idea is these islands, like in the painting, that the pavement becomes a kind of waterway and connects the project that way. And then other elements spread around the site on different posts. The whole painting is a kind of analogy. Also about I think he was working out some personal problems, in the paintings about taming himself and these Quaker ideals. So the animals all meant something kind of personal to him as well, I think. And then this is the Arrow Memorial by Paul Manship. And I'm going to add, the golden sphere up there. It has astrological symbols around it, and I'm sort of taking parts of it and blowing them up. These drawings are some of that, some symbols from that, and then fighter planes in that kind of Manship style. And on those, I'll gold plate them and make them sort of a part of that end of the installation. And this one is, I'm supposed to relate to the different organizations around. So this is the Free Library has a raven that was Charles Dickens' raven, Grip. And I guess Edgar Allan Poe wrote the raven based on this stuffed, they've got him up in the library, this stuffed Grip, this stuffed raven. And that's the hero of the raven for Edgar Allan Poe, or the inspiration. They also have Poe's original poem. So I took these things and I made this kind of female raven about 8 feet high. And then I did a portrait of Edgar Allan Poe on the worm that's on the, you can see him on the upper right up there. He did also the Conquering Worm. So I thought it was kind of a mix of those two poems. So it could be Edgar and the Raven. I don't know. Yeah. They're talking it over, I like the high heels. Yeah. And then this is the black memorial to the black soldiers from World War I, and also based in Philadelphia, the Tuskegee Airmen. There's a group of fighter pilots during World War II, very famous for defending these big bombers, and I'm adding this Black Panther on the globe, which was this winged Black Panther on the globe, which was their patch. And so I'm doing kind of a three-dimensional version of that in front, and then a plaque on the ground. So it's a complicated project, it's like spread around. And this final centerpiece is again back to the William Hicks or the Edgar Hicks painting. And the American Eagle and the Dove of Peace and the Lamb. So there are more. All these works start, with small sketches. These are the first clay sketches. They would be maybe this high, something like that. This is the stuff I work on in airplanes when I'm flying back and forth. I pull out pull out a box with red clay and start working. And it's really a good way to start public projects. You just, you're going to have a conversation about this, and I get reactions, right from the get-go. So, and then, then it'll settle down and I can actually get some work done. It's kind of like taking my knitting. Yeah, those are the... So you get an idea of the scale. Those are up about 6 feet. Well, that's the little guy. Yeah, that first sketch. I talked so quickly, I guess we're done. Now it's you guys get to, that's it. That's the project. And I'd be happy to take questions or, we're a little ahead of schedule. I guess I was nervous, Oh, I'll repeat some questions if I can hear them anyway. When is it going to be finished? Right now, we went through the whole process of the city approvals. It's been maybe 3 or 4 years in the works. And we're all set up except for this financial collapse that came. So a lot of the funding just kind of went, so I don't have the answers to when that comes through. It'll happen, but those big corporate fundraisers and stuff have been having a hard time out there. So, yeah. I haven't found a place for myself yet. Yeah.
I'm curious. I know the millipede has shoes on all the millipede.
Yeah.
But what is the relationship? I know some of the characters have shoes also.
Yeah.
And why is that?
Oh, usually I sort of anthropomorphize things that way, let people think about them a little differently. I know I started with a basic set of figures that have, it's a way to show class sometimes, like, you got boots on, or you got shoes, you got high hats, or you got construction caps. So I usually try to divide things in, I've got white collar workers, blue collar workers, naked people with little pointed hats are the radicals, cops, all men and women, cops, and then my favorite, rich people. I use rich people all the time. So, so there's sort of like a set of characters that I can work in, at least in my own imagination, build a story around it, So, yeah. Uh-huh.
You always been a sculptor, or did you start as
No, I started as a painter. I studied here as a painter in Wichita the whole time I was here. I did a little lion that was very much like this one. If anybody has heard from Pat Black, my first girlfriend, I'd like to get a hold of her because she has this little sculpture, I took it, I think it was the 3rd grade. I made this little sculpture and I took all the colors, the firing colors, and just poured it over its head. So it's like a Jackson Pollock lion. So if you see it in a garage sale, you grab it for me or something. Yeah, it might be. I want that first, though. You got to get to me. No, I trained as a painter in school, all the way up. I didn't think about doing sculpture because it's so expensive, I suppose. And I learned to draw. I studied with Don Kinney in 9th grade. I made some sculpture for him. I made a head that was very special to me. And then I studied with Don Weddle and at Southeast, and the Bill and Betty Dickerson were very important to me. And I'd go to classes there 2-3 times a week for painting. And at the Art Association. And that was when I was saying the influence you guys have in supporting the arts. Whoever backed that place up and I remember the Dickersons early on having a kind of a brownstone or something more downtown, and people supported that, and it really had a big effect on both. Well, many artists came out of that school, and David Sally was there with me, and it was like a college level education that we could get starting at 12, so really a good thing. Everything you can do to support other artists here is really be helpful. Well, I guess you're okay, Patricia. Okay. Say that again. Oh, once it gets going off the ground, generally something like that would be 4 or 5 years. Yeah, I would say, and it depends on the time flow. I've got construction, kind of. We do workflow charts, flow charts, and mesh all these jobs together. It's a trip, but 3 or 4 years in general. One project took 10 years. Was the MTA, and a lot of that was politics and them finishing the station. But sometimes the longer projects have a big advantage, in that you can see the site and really think about it and gradually install, and there can be advantages to that. So, hoping, yeah.
Do you have your own team of
Yeah.
a vision? Do you have your own team that designs it and helps you design it?
Yeah. It's I've got between 15 and 20 people full time, so it's an operation, and we work together on kind of the conceptual parts of it, doing these presentations. I don't even know how to turn a computer on, so I get a lot of help. And we use them quite a bit these days. It's an amazing tool, but I have to sit next to somebody and say, do this, do that, or I do a drawing and they print out something and I draw on it and give it back to them. I mean.
So the end product always is what you had envisioned?
I don't know if I'd go that far. This is one of the joys of doing public work, But sometimes it's better than I could, or it's gotten even stranger than I could ever have imagined, collaborating with federal judges, and, you never know what you're going to come up with. Yeah. I'd say it's eccentric. I hope it's always eccentric, and it has something to do with me, and there are always surprises between this point and what finally shows up on site can be something a little different, so. Yeah.
Do you have a work or a compilation that you have in your mind that you want to do, but you haven't been commissioned to do?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think every artist is sort of a megalomaniac, there's all kinds of, I'd like to do, building projects. I'd like to do sort of anthropomorphic architecture. The last lecture I showed this big slide that I've done, like a 30-foot long figure that kids can crawl up in the head of the figure and look out. And it's kind of architectural. And that's a direction I'd like to go, even on a bigger scale. Or to do animation, so that's been waiting, So either of those ways I'd like to go. Got to be patient. It's a game. Yeah? About making the millipede and let's see. Yeah. Help. How did we go on this? This was like, how many years was it? It's 3 or 4 years. And I came, I rehearsed for something else. I remember it developed, there was a smaller one, and then I kept wanting to make it bigger, as is my way. And it was all one, it was a male millipede, it had all one set of shoes until about halfway through the project. And I remember calling up and going, well, what do you think about this? About halfway through, and it went through okay. So, about halfway to a year and a half into the project, I thought, oh, the students are a lot, it's not just guys going here, and I thought, well, we could cross-dress it, So I had every other section. I thought it was sort of an idea of a society walking together. So each section is alternating male and female, but they've all got to be somehow coordinated to move in the same direction, agree on some basic principle. So it was a sort of social organization project for me. And then at the very end, really just weeks before being installed, I was out in the foundry welding everything together with them. And I thought, oh, it needs something to get it going. And there wasn't time to cast a wax from the scratch, so I took a bronze casting and kind of cut it up and rebuilt her, that little gal at the back end pushing the high heel off. And I thought, oh, that's it. Kind of a portrait of my mom getting everything going, The Mighty Mouse. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Your works are large pieces. What you're showing us are very large pieces. And I'm sure that you didn't learn at the Center for the Arts how to engineer and carry and move and set those. So can you talk about that?
Yeah. Like I said, I trained as a painter, and then I went to the Whitney Museum Independent Study Program, and at that point, it was 73. Painting was dead, sculpture was dead, it was media. I did film, and as a group, we did magazines and performance and all kinds of things. And then we had a group of about 50 people. And we were working out on the street. I would do paintings out on the street, sort of silhouette, like international sign symbols. And then from that, I started making sculpture, almost like a joke, like a conceptual art joke, and sold them for $4.99 out on the sidewalk. And I made some money, I averaged my time, and I thought, well, it's better than sheetrocking, and I was off, And I really learned, if you want to do this, go get Louis Slobodkin's How to Make Sculpture by Dover, $8.95, or it was then. And I learned practically everything from that. He's a 30s sculptor and taught you how to do armatures and basic ideas for it. And then I would learn at foundries, and I would learn kind of as I went. I traded sheetrock for my first bronze, and I learned how to make molds, and really not quite self-taught, but I found my own way, I guess. Yeah. One way in the back.
Are you part of a team like landscape architects, landscape design architects, or you go out later? Tell me how it all is.
Let's see. Yeah, I'm not a team with another architecture group or a landscape group, but often big projects require that, or they pull you in and you're in a team. So you learn to work in teams. And there are some, there was a big project I competed for but didn't get in Chicago, near the big Chicago park. They're expanding another park. And a landscape architect, a firm, came to me to be part of their team. And then we proposed together. And that was fascinating. It's another world. At that level of architecture, it's a different world. And to see how they structured the proposal and did the bids and all that stuff. So I'm getting a taste of it, but I don't have an alliance with anybody,
So people giving them your concept and you go out to the city.
I'm
Was peaceful and there was more
I'm not sure I follow. Can you? Oh, for the Philadelphia job? I brought it to them, this idea of what the subject should be, but they came to me in this case with a sort of a directive that it should relate to the institutions around the site and kind of envelop the sculpture that's there. So some of this it's like a job with requirements in the job, you know? So it came with a set of these challenges that I had to incorporate into the sculpture. But the content of the sculpture, I came to them with. I had a more complicated, a lot of little people that were sort of my version of the founding of America and what does this mean in the peaceable kingdom, and it was a more complicated kind of political theme, and they sort of went, I don't think so. But that's what I'm saying. You don't know what's actually going to end up in the end, Like, I might just find the money for those little guys and go ahead and do that. Or, we don't know. The game isn't over till it's out there. So, don't tell anybody. All right. Well, maybe that's good. Maybe that's a wrap. Thanks so much. Okay.